this is a workshop of the Del Mar College Board of Regents. The time is 10:32. Meeting is now called to order. We'll have a moment of silence. Let us please rise and face the flag. Miss Elva, would you lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, just a reminder, Del Mar College is streaming live and video from the official Board of Regents meeting on the college website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statutes. Okay, at this point, we'll have general public comments. Is there anybody signed in? Guess not. Okay, so we will move on with the agenda. Discussion related to college financial condition assessment. Dr. Raul Garcia.
Dr. Adame, Mr. President, members of the board, good morning, everyone. A little over 2 weeks ago, Mr. Roland Gilmore, the Senior Program Director from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, presented to the board a webinar on key performance indicators. Thanks to all who were able to attend and review our copy of the webinar. Please contact our new doctor, Natalie Valeria, if there's interest in reviewing this webinar. I say new because I think she recently achieved her doctor's degree. Very nice. Yes. Today's KPI presentation will have a more focused view on Del Mar's finances. KPI is one of many components to the framework for managing and measuring the financial condition of an institution of higher education. Other components to the framework include the annual budget, the strategic plan, and the annual audited financial statements. The KPIs are used as a look back and a look forward of the college's finances to address the following common questions. From a risk management perspective, does the college have financial resources to operate under external adverse conditions, such as the state funding reductions that occurred in 2011 through 2014, or Hurricane Harvey in 2017? From a credit-worthy perspective, does the college's current financial research position, strategic plan, and local economic outlook position the college to pay its obligation and maintain the current investment grade bond rating of AA? From an operational perspective, does the college have sufficient cash liquidity to pay its bond obligations and payroll? Does the college have the financial capacity to support the bond-approved 5-year student-focused strategic plan? And are the financial resources flexible enough to support the mission and adjust to its funding needs to remain competitive? The answers to all these questions, in my opinion, is yes. I will also add that Mr. Gilmore pointed out that the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board does not express concerns around Del Mar's finances. By the way, the Coordinating Board is an organization established by the Texas Educational Code to provide, in part, oversight of community colleges. Dr. West will now come up and do a presentation on our KPIs.
Thank you, Raul. Okay, well, Raul and I have been working on the KPIs, well, really starting back to our SACS reaffirmation, because we have included that as, as evidence that we have strong financial resources. And then we were working on the strategic plan. And so that's what I want to be sure and kind of take a step back and say, okay, why are we looking at these ratios today because we just adopted the new strategic plan. Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so we just adopted the new strategic plan, and we all know that our mission of the college is best accomplished through the strategic plan. But in order to carry out your initiatives of your plan, you must have adequate resources. And that's, also one of the things that Raul and I and our whole budget team have been working on to try to improve our budgeting process so that we are better able to allocate our resources to the strategic plan initiatives. So, and pardon me, I think I'm getting a little bit of a sore throat. Okay, so the overall financial health can be assessed by asking these 4 key financial questions. Are the resources sufficient and flexible to support the mission? Are the resources, including debt, managed strategically to advance the mission? Does asset performance and management support the strategic direction? And do the operating results indicate the institution is living within available resources? And I have a picture of our new strategic plan there. Okay, so goal 6 of the new strategic plan is financial effectiveness and affordability. And the KPIs that we came up with for this goal, first is the composite financial indicator, the CFI, and that's what we're here today to explain what that is. And so you can see below that are the 4 ratios that make up the CFI. And then the other pieces are average tuition and fees for Texas community colleges, comparison to Del Mar, and then the scholarships awarded by the foundation. Okay, so as Raul mentioned, we had Roland Gilmore from the coordinating board go over with y'all or do the webinar on the ratios and the financial condition report that the coordinating board does, and that's at the state level. And they publish that every year around the end of spring, and they've been doing that since 2007. Now, the ratios and the idea of using the CFI as an important indicator was developed by consulting companies and a consortium that was led by KPMG, which is a national auditing firm, and that dates back to 1999. Now, I did want to point out that our ratios are done on the same basis as the coordinating board, and we do remove the implementation of GASB 68 and 75 based on the recommendations by KPMG. Okay, so as I said, the CFI combines the 4 ratios into a single metric. So what I'm going to do is, and this is just a diagram that represents the overall financial health. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just want to give y'all a very high-level explanation of each one of the ratios. What does it measure? What question does it answer? And how do we compare to the state standard? So the first one, return on net position, measures total economic return and answers the question, is the college better off financially this year than it was last year? And what you're going to see on all of our ratios is that we exceed the state standard. So what I've done here is I've given you the ratios back to 15 all the way up to 18, and we will be producing the ratios for 19 as soon as we finalize our CAFR. And then you can see on this one the state standard is positive, that you must be positive, but we are well above the positive.
Yeah. So it's okay at times for us to take a little dip, provided that strategically we plan for it. That is part of the budget plan process. So in 2017, we had planned a specific expenditure
And
that
that's
resulted in a downward trend in one of our ratios. So can you explain what that is?
Okay, so that takes me right, and then, and I did want to point out, I do show the calculation down at the bottom. Not that I expect anybody to go out and do the calculations, but the items that you see are taken off of our CAFR, which is our annual report. And and I do have the components if anybody was interested in those calculations. Okay, so the next ratio is the operating margin. It measures operating performance. And did the college balance its expenses, operating expenses, with available revenue? And again, the state standard is positive. Now, you'll see the dip in 2017. You know, some years you will have a fluctuation, just like what Royal said. But that's fine as long as it's planned, as long as it's something you purposely did. And in 17, we adjusted salaries to invest in our faculty and staff. But then, as you can see, it popped right back up in 18, and you're going to see in 19, it pops up even further. Okay, then the next ratio is primary reserve ratio. It measures the financial strength and flexibility. This ratio will tell you how long can the college survive without additional net position generated by operating revenue. So you can see we have a strong, strong trend, very little fluctuation, and exceeds the state standard of 0.14. And then last but not least, the debt management, which is the viability ratio, and it measures the availability of net position to cover debt and how much debt can the college pay off with existing resources. So you can see we have a really strong trend moving upward and exceeding the state standard of 0.42. So then what you do is you take all those ratios and you put them into a calculation. They're weighted, and then you end up with the overall index. So that, as it says, it's the overall health of the college, financial health. And so you can see for 18, we're up to 4.6, exceeds the state standard of 2. And then what I did here on this chart was just show you each one of the components of the ratios and then how they measure to the state standard. But as you can see, Del Mar College is in very good financial condition. And do you have any questions?
Was it in 2017 that we did the early retirement packages?
No, that was back in what year was that?
14, 13.
Yeah.
The hurricanes.
But we did do the increases to faculty and staff salaries in 17.
Yeah, and that's the reason I was asking, because it was so low in 2017. I thought maybe
Yeah.
we had added the retirement packages.
I have a couple of general questions. We approved 2 budgets, the debt service budget and the M&O budget. Debt service, revenue equals expenses. M&O budget, revenue equals expenses plus a contingency of 1.5%. We've got a lot of cash. Where'd the cash come from?
Sure. We're going to be presenting today's audited financial statements. And there's a statement of cash flow that talks about where the cash came from. So in 2019, I can tell you our cash and investment is going up $4.6 million. That's a good thing. Why? Because it adds liquidity. It gives us enough flexibility to tackle on any uncertainties that may come up with. What type of uncertainties? Let's go back to the 2011-2014 period. During that period, $2.1 million was reduced in our state funding. That's a very important fact. Most colleges, I know in some of my colleges in Illinois, would have a hard time surviving or coming out of that. What else? Hurricane Harvey. There were some unexpected costs that came out of that. Why? Well, because we have the financial flexibility. Cash is a good thing. So where did the cash come from? In 2019, cash is coming from, I can tell you, Nora has done, and her team has done a great job, specifically in corporate services. She's bringing in about 1.5, a little bit more than $1.5 million in revenue. That's the bulk of it. That's a plus. That's new initiatives, new things, us keeping an eye on what the market is doing, and just going out and say, what can we do differently? What can we do better? How, what are our opportunities? Does that help?
It helps, but I guess my question is, we had basically $100 million budget. 1.5% of that would be 1,500,000. I would expect our cash to go up 1,500,000. It clearly went up more than that.
Yes, well, you also have the contingency.
No, that is the contingency.
I'm sorry?
That is the contingency, 1.5%.
Well, you have the 1.5 in corporate services. You have $2 million in contingency. That's $3.5 million for 2019.
We also had interest income that
Oh,
exceeded budget.
yes, and that's right.
Yes.
Kathy did a marvelous job in getting a good rate of return, good yields on our investments. You will see in our audit financial statements, there's a big swing in the return on those investments. So it's just taking advantage of the market and not moving our risk factor. We're staying within our acceptable level of risk, investing in other more items longer term, and getting a better yield. Thank you.
Thank you. More
Excuse me.
questions?
Go ahead,
Oh,
Coach.
go ahead.
No,
No, you.
it's okay.
Okay. I really like the idea that we're going to give the teachers, the staff, everybody, all the resources that they need. So that's very important. I really like that. But at the same token, let me ask this crazy question as far as, with the new technology that's going on now and everything, like I was thinking is that, do we have anything like smart boards in the classrooms? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we have all types of advanced technology and smart boards and so forth, and it's particularly in the labs where the students are concentrated to really focus on off-campus, out of class types of support services and those sorts of things. The audio visual packages that are put forth in all the new classrooms right now are better than anything, more advanced than anything else we've had. So I would say the smart boards per se are probably in the lab, probably more. I don't have those details, and I know August is working on something and asked not to be able to not to be excused from this particular meeting, but the capabilities of the classroom are way more than we've had in a long time, and especially with these new classes coming on, they're equipped way more powerfully than we've had before.
Okay, because, nowadays, the new technology, the kids really focus a lot on laptops and all of that and the internet, and, it makes them focus more because that's, like, they feel very comfortable there. They can play with that. They know that. So the same thing happens here with smart boards. I was able to be in a school where they did have smart boards. And of course, it was a small setting, so there wasn't that many. But at the same token, though, because I know they're expensive, but God almighty, it was really, really awesome. And the contribution, the kids, how focused they were on that, it's unbelievable.
And I'll tell you one other thing, Coach, on that issue. I had a smart board put in my conference room when I got here, and it's already not so smart as compared to the smart screens and a few other things. So the new screens that are coming in, the mobility, everything, starts off big and new and shiny and everything else, and then begins to shrink and becomes more accessible, cheaper, and everything else, just like like a lot of things in the economy. But I know that one of the things that we continue to try to do and advance is keeping at the forefront, staying at the forefront of what we call a technological ecosystem that really meets the students' needs. And again, these things transform everything and really keep us on our toes. And so just 10 short years ago when smart boards were coming on board, and they're still very helpful, don't get me wrong, we brought some of those on, and then we're already moving to the next generation. And I know that there's still a few folks out there that like the good old-fashioned chalkboard. We don't have many of those. We're saving those relics. Those are now very, very expensive because they belong in we're trying to preserve as many of those things as possible. So we go from the very basic to the very advanced, and we have all kinds of applications for our students.
Do we know where we rank among the other community colleges in terms of our ratio?
So in terms of our peer group, which is 8, that includes North Central, Amarillo, Laredo, Central Texas. So in terms of our CFI ratio, we're probably we placed 3rd highest. So that's great. But it doesn't mean it's always going to be at the high end. It all depends on what our strategic initiatives. So I may have a one-time initiative to the tune of $3 million. Okay, it's going to support our strategic initiative, but then we'll rebuild it the following year. I mean, that's part of the ebb and flow of the CFI. As long as that it is a plan, initiative that links to the strategic vision of the college and the mission, I think we're in good shape.
I think one of the other variables, if I may tag on to that, one of the other variables with ranking amongst our peers is that Del Mar has been going through extraordinary change. So I think that's fair to say, especially since 2014, with the level of investment and everything else in the infrastructure and so forth. So every year has been different. So, I won't say radically different, but the amount of initiatives and everything that we've been undertaking, especially since 14, is far more than our peers. I'll
Right.
say that,
And you have
especially
to-
with the expenditures.
Exactly, and it's important when you're doing, I mean, they're good for comparison on one hand, but you do have to be careful about considering what's going on in that region. And what we have going on down here with the economic boom, you really have to be careful when you compare the ratios.
How many years has the CB been using this
Since 2007,
since?
yeah.
But it's been around for
Oh,
a number of years.
yeah, since the
I mean,
80s,
since the
yeah.
80s. So we're just not keeping up with the best practice trend.
I would think over the long term, not to get too caught up in the peaks and valleys, in any given year, but over the long term, we're probably showing a consistency in being above the state.
Yes.
The state.
This is a big compliance piece from the state leadership's office, and it is intended to be not only reflective of what the operations of the colleges, but when the colleges are not, this is intended to make that known.
Mm-hmm.
The governor's office does not hesitate to publish names and colleges and everything else when there's some non-compliance or less than meeting beyond or under the thresholds. So it's a very politically sensitive report as well.
May I ask, if it's tricky or you're cautioned about comparing to other colleges, do we have a goal? Do we have a number that we compare ourselves to, other than just saying it was up or down from last year?
Yes, so very good question. I think right now our goal is to at least meet the minimum standard at the state level. And so the things that I'm thinking right now is what are my just business interruptions that I've seen that I know of over the last 10 years. State appropriations declining. Hurricanes seems to be a concern. I think we were very fortunate this time around, but how do you come back operationally from a disaster like that? And how do you measure your potential loss or your risk factor? I'm not too sure. The only thing that I have as a baseline is Hurricane Harvey. And I think we really lucked out at the end of the day, where some of our communities around us got hit pretty bad. So, it's one of those things that at some point in time, when we get better information, we can fine tune our measurement. But at least at a minimum, we can say we have the financial flexibility to alter any strategic vision or course that we may want to. And I can tell you, I come from other colleges that does not have that flexibility. They're living paycheck to paycheck, having to deal with any business interruptions. Right? We're in a good place, definitely.
Thank you.
Well, earlier you had mentioned that the coordinating board didn't express concern about our finances, and I'm assuming that what Dr. Scalia was saying about the governor's office some of those reports, so I guess we've never been on that list. That
We
list.
have never been on that list. Otherwise, our president would have gotten a phone call and we would have had to explain ourselves. What is it, what happened, and what is our, I'm guessing, our corrective action plan to get our finances improved.
Right.
And we, yeah, I'm
Each,
sorry.
each year, there will be a section, and you can go out and look at that report, it's on the coordinating board's website, but the ones that do have concerning ratios, they do contact the school, and they have to write a response, and it's published in the
Yes.
report, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The other thing about all of this is one, you want to seek compliance. Yes, you want to meet the use the benchmarks that are there in front of us to position to overcome, the challenges that we have year to year as a college. We get that, and we want to overcome, the challenges that we bring upon ourselves. The investments that we make and the like. I think from a state standpoint, as we're looking at the other colleges and just kind of watching, we learn what and what not to do, and some of them, some of the things that we've done over the years, and as this report, it just goes to show that in this report that our stability is being watched closely, monitored closely, not just by ourselves, not just by our auditors, not just by our community. But the folks at the state level have high expectations for the 50 community colleges, and we're doing well, all things considered. Are we ready for the rainy day? Yeah, well, that's what we get ready for, and we proved it in Harvey. But every June, we all get nervous here, just like we do, like everybody else here on the coast. I know today's a big TWIA day, but there's a lot of things that come with hurricane season, and we get as prepared as we possibly can.
Yeah, I will also add that, our bondholders, the investors who bought our bonds, are also looking at these ratios, right? And so, they want to make sure that their investment is solid. And if there's any future bond issuance, these numbers definitely help in quickly selling those bonds at a premium as opposed to a discount,
Sure,
right?
I can see why.
Regents, I'd just like to say, I know we're kind of winding down, or at least that's the feel, and I'm not by no means rushing us, but I really like the format. When you go back and it says, what is the indicator answer? What is the question that it answers? When I saw this report, I saw that it really got down to it. It really answered a very basic question. I think it felt good on my brain for consumption. Please let us know. Give us your feedback, not only today, but in terms of the format and the structure of this presentation. It was meant to be user-friendly for everyone here and all watching. And so please let us know what you think about the format as well.
Dr. Escamilla, I'll just add that after watching the webinar, I particularly appreciate this format and find it easier to digest. And that was my big question after the webinar is, okay, well, where do we rank in all of this? So thank you.
Thank you.
Regents, any more questions? Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Public comments for this particular agenda item? Under calendaring. Okay. All right, if there isn't any more questions, or this workshop is adjourned at 12:01.